Hello, hi everyone. Welcome back to Woo Can Cook. My name is Wesley, and this is a show where we are slowly cooking our way through all of the food from my childhood. Today we're diving back into our series dedicated to classic Americanized Chinese cuisine with a look at the Firecracker Tempura Shrimp from PF Chang's. For those new to the channel, in this series we have been deconstructing classic Americanized dishes from Chinese cuisine, including a growing list of dishes from the PF Chang's menu now, then seeing what it might look like when reconstructed through the lens of more traditional wok cooking. For those not familiar, the PF Chang's Firecracker Tempura Shrimp comes from their home menu and is readily found in the frozen food aisle of most big box grocery stores. This, of course, will be very beneficial to us because it means that it also has, you guessed it, a readily available list of ingredients as well, which will be particularly useful in our efforts to reconstruct the dish's Siracha red chili sauce. To go along with this, I also thought it might be fun to assemble our own interpretation of a firecracker shrimp using a Sichuan peppercorn dry seasoning inspired by a Taiwanese popcorn chicken to create a legitimately spicy and firecracker-y shrimp. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, so kicking things off here first, we're starting off with some aromatic veggies to go along with the glaze of our firecracker shrimp. This is 4 cloves of crushed and minced garlic to start, followed by 1 inch or about 1 tablespoon of fine minced ginger, and the whites of 3 green onions sliced up thinly. Then, as we often do, we're preserving these leafy greens of our green onions and slicing them up thinly on a bias for our final finishing garnish later on. Moving right along to our glaze next. Now, like I mentioned earlier, our ingredients list is going to be particularly useful with this bit, including us in on how we want to put together our sauce element. To be honest, my assumption based on the lighter color of the glaze was that there would be some amount of mayonnaise involved, not too dissimilar to how a honey walnut shrimp would have been done. On closer inspection though, it looks as if the boxed version does not actually contain any mayonnaise, which is odd. The creamy coating to our shrimp is almost certainly due to the inclusion of mayo, and my best guess is that the inclusion of chickpea broth here in the ingredients list indicates that the boxed version contains a vegan mayo made from aquafaba. In any case though, for our version, I went ahead and assembled my very best attempt at our own mayo-free firecracker shrimp, which is going to be comprised of 4 tablespoons of soy sauce to start, followed by a tablespoon each of rice vinegar and Shaoxing wine for some brightness, and 2 tablespoons of Siracha to round this out. Finally, for our sweeter elements, this is 2 tablespoons each of sweet chili sauce and honey going in. Then we're mixing this all up to combine and setting aside while we dive into our shrimp next. Alright, so for our tempura batter, we're going with my favorite tried and true combination for all things tempura, leaning heavily on the use of soda water to create a lighter, less bready crust to our shrimp. Going in here first is a 1/4 cup each of cornstarch and AP flour to start, followed as promised by a 1/2 cup of soda water and 2 egg whites. As with any tempura batter, our goal here is to inhibit as much gluten development as possible to make for a lighter and less chewy crust. Our soda water is going to aid quite a bit in this goal, but we're also being very careful not to over-whisk our batter as well, so that we don't get too much gluten development going on. I particularly like chopsticks for this purpose because it makes it pretty much impossible to over-whisk. In any case, I'm adding 8 ounces or about a dozen or so shrimp that have been peeled and deveined already, then tossing to combine, and we're heading over to the stove. Over on the stove, I have my fryer heating up to 350 degrees F. Then we're doing a double fry here, which tends to be essential with tempura batters like this one due to its high moisture content. I'm adding in my shrimp here for an initial 1-minute fry, then removing and letting cool for 5 minutes. Then we're going to add these back to the fryer for a second and final 2 to 3 minute fry, yielding these golden brown crispy tempura shrimp before us. Next, I've removed my fryer oil here and reheated the wok as hot as possible. Then I'm adding 4 tablespoons of peanut oil and, as always, long yao for that nice non-stick surface. Then going in here first are my aromatics. Here's my garlic, ginger, and the whites of my green onions going in for about 15 seconds until nice and fragrant. Then next, we're reducing the fire to medium heat and adding in our glaze plus about a quarter cup of water, then letting this all reduce for 3 to 5 minutes until a thick glaze begins to form. Finally, we're killing the heat, adding our shrimp back to the wok and tossing to combine. We're serving this all over rice, finishing with the greens of our green onions, and we're ready to eat. Okay, so in all honesty, I can tell you that this is probably missing some mayonnaise here. As you may have noticed, our glaze is missing that distinct creamy white texture, again not too dissimilar to that found in a classic honey walnut shrimp. That said, I do still think that our final results are still well worth attempting for your own dinners. The double fry to our tempura batter yields a crispy, crunchy bite that is also light and airy, thanks to all of the steps that we took to prevent gluten development in the batter. Then to pair with this, our glaze is sweet and savory with a bright vinegar-forward quality that complements the sweet chili sauce and honey really nicely. I do think that the Siracha more or less gets overpowered by our sweeter elements though, so if I had to attempt this again, I might go for a more bold heat driver like a dobanjang or sambal olek. This might also be useful too because as of August 2023, due to the chili shortage, Siracha costs something like $35 a bottle here in the States. Yikes. In any case, as promised, up next here I went ahead and assembled my own version of what I imagine a true firecracker shrimp might actually look like, and for whatever reason, the first thing that comes to mind for me is a Taiwanese popcorn chicken, which, when found from the right street vendor, has plenty of firecracker kick to it due to its iconic use of Sichuan peppercorn as a dry seasoning. So up first here, we're assembling a quick dry batter to our shrimp this time. This is going to start out with some aromatic veggies to start. This is 4 cloves of crushed and minced garlic, followed by 1 inch or about 1 tablespoon of fine minced ginger, both going into my largest mixing bowl. Then next, this is a half cup of cornstarch going in, followed by a half teaspoon of baking powder to give us some nice puff and rise activated by the fryer heat. We're mixing this all to combine, then adding our shrimp and tossing to coat. Over on the stove, I have my fryer heating up to 350 degrees F. Then we're doing a quick single fry with our shrimp this time. I'm adding these in for 3 to 5 minutes until lightly golden brown, being careful not to overcook our shrimp. If you notice your shrimp curling up too tightly, like this one here, it's generally a sign that you may be heading for a rubbery or chewy shrimp, so fry carefully. Up next, in a saucepan, I'm dry toasting our spices here. This is about a tablespoon of Szechuan peppercorn to start, followed by about a dozen or so dried Tianjin peppers, which we're tossing over medium-low heat until nice and fragrant. Then next, we're adding these peppercorn to a mortar and pestle so that we may crush these up and toss in with our shrimp. I like to also pass the peppercorn through a fine mesh sieve as well to filter out some of the larger bits of peppercorn. Rounding this out, this is a 1/4 teaspoon each of white pepper and Chinese 5-spice, followed by a pinch of kosher salt. Then we're giving this all a toss to coat, and we're ready to eat. Okay, so those following along with this channel may recall the Taiwanese popcorn chicken recipe we did a while back, inspired by the one found at Quickly's. In that recipe, we explored a bit on how a Taiwanese popcorn chicken is assembled, more specifically in its use of a dry seasoning to create the distinctive aromatic spiciness found in the dish. In particular, that dry seasoning iconically contains a combination of Chinese 5-spice, white pepper, and Szechuan peppercorn to create its seasoning, yielding the spicy, savory, numbing quality that we all know and love. So, to that end, I guess you could say that our version of firecracker shrimp is essentially a Taiwanese popcorn shrimp, which, true to the series, is more along the lines of how you might see this dish assembled in traditional wok cooking. Our shrimp is crispy and lightly fried thanks to our quick cornstarch batter, and makes for an excellent small bite dish, ready-made for bite-sized pieces for you to shovel in your mouth one shrimp at a time. Okay, so that's it everyone. I hope you enjoyed this and I hope you give this one a shot. For those who are new to the channel, this one is part of a larger series dedicated to reproducing classic Chinese American dishes, including a whole bunch of other stuff from the PF Chang's menu, so definitely check out that series next if you haven't yet, because there's a lot of these. As always, like, comment, subscribe, share, be nice interneters, and I'll see you soon.